Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Friends, before going into the details of the war, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell. Please support by subscribing and turning on the notification bell. We are a strong community. Rolling blackouts in Kyiv, massive morgue in Mariupol, and NV goes to the Kherson front due to concerted Russian attacks on Ukraine's electric infrastructure. A number of oblasts have restricted power usage, and have urged residents to cut down on operating appliances when and where possible. This may pose difficulties for residents of the capital, especially, whose blackouts begun on October 21 as despite a sharp drop in temperatures, centralized heating has not been turned on, and many Ukrainians often rely on electric heaters and air conditioning to make up the shortfall. Two of the officials, the company's honorary president, Vyacheslav Bogoslayev, and the head of Motor such as Department of Foreign Economic Activity, have both been identified in suspects in a treason case, the SBU says. According to the security service, the officials are responsible for selling Russian military aviation, specifically helicopters, with engines and maintenance materials. Mariupol's city council reports that the morgue covers a 7,000 square meter area. The mortality rates are likely caused by the lack of food, healthcare, and adequate shelter, coupled with the dropping temperatures. Mariupol residents are said to have to cook on the street, collect water from puddles, and eat humanitarian aid provided by the Russian occupation authorities, which is often expired and unsafe for consumption. In a new report by Bloomberg, the publication spoke to representatives of tanker companies and researchers, who told reporters that it was clear undisclosed buyers had been buying up ships for a fleet over the past 6 months. In total, these undisclosed buyers, suspected of being Russian representatives, have purchased 240 oil tankers. The agency says there's no obvious reason for the hike, as only a single producer has reported a loss of capacity due to the war, and the spike is far above what inflation and the consumer price index would suggest. Additionally, the cost of chicken feed remains low, sparking suspicion of collusion among market players. Alfa Bank is Ukraine's 7th largest bank in terms of total assets, and Friedman is a major shareholder, openly owning 32.68% of Alfa Bank's shares. However, sanctions on Friedman within Ukraine and abroad have frozen much of his assets, including his accounts in Monaco. He's currently attempting to recapitalize Alfa Bank to the tune of $1 billion, though regulatory and sanctions hurdles have made this a complicated process. President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Russia of holding top 150 Ukrainian ships in an act of deliberate obstruction, saying that the aggressor country was hoping to spark another food crisis. The situation around the grain export initiative is becoming ever more tense in recent weeks, said Zelensky, and noted that export shipments had already dropped by 3 million tons due to the backlog. NV correspondent Anthony Bardaway traveled to the front lines of the southern front between Mykolaiv and Kherson to see how the Ukrainian military, and local residents, have managed with 8 months of unceasing warfare. Despite 8 years of war with Russia, and a multitude of reforms, Ukraine's court system stubbornly resists change. A flurry of lawsuits against PrivatBank by its former owners, who are suspected of perpetrating a $4.5 billion fraud against the bank, has shown major gaps in the court system's ability to fairly judge cases. NV spoke to a number of legal experts about the deficiencies in Ukraine's justice system which have been exemplified during the proceedings against PrivatBank. Director of Military Programs at the Razumkiv Center Mykola Sungarovsky talks about what Russia hopes to achieve in Kherson, and what Ukraine needs to do to counter these plans. The share of Russian gas on the EU market decreased from 40% to 7%, the Commissioner for the Internal Market said. The European Commissioner for the Internal Market and Services Thierry Breton said that the EU managed to decrease the share of Russian gas on the EU market from 40% to 7% in less than a year after Russia started its full-scale war against Ukraine. Europe was able to replace 155 billion cubic meters of Russian gas from other sources, although its cost has increased. Ukraine keeps knocking down Russia's Iranian-made drones. UK officials say Ukraine is becoming increasingly successful at intercepting the Iranian-made drones that Russia has deployed in its faltering invasion, destroying up to 85% of them before they can hit their targets, British military officials said Monday. Russia is continuing to rely on the Iranian Shahed 136 unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, in its campaign that has dragged on for nearly 9 months, British military intelligence officials tweeted. These UAVs are slow, noisy, and fly at low altitudes, making lone aircraft easy to target using conventional air defenses, British officials tweeted. Russia is likely going through a large number of Iranian drones in an attempt to penetrate Ukraine's increasingly effective air defenses. It is likely using them as a substitute for Russian-manufactured long-range precision weapons, which are becoming increasingly rare, British officials said. A presenter with state-funded Russian television channel RT apologized on Monday after being suspended for calling for the burning of Ukrainian children. "I apologize to everyone who was stunned by this. I apologize to Margarita, to everyone who found these comments wild, unthinkable," Anton Krasovsky, a 47-year-old pro-Kremlin pundit under Western sanctions, said on Telegram. Margarita Simonyan, the chief editor of RT, formerly called Russia Today, during the night from Sunday to Monday announced the channel was suspending its work with Krasovsky over his "wild and disgusting" statement. Krasovsky's comments last week sparked an uproar on social media, after he responded to a guest talking about meeting Ukrainian children in the 1980s who said they saw Russia as an occupier in Soviet times. "These children need to be drowned, shove them into their huts and burn them up," Krasovsky said. Simonyan, who has been a fierce supporter of Russia's military action in Ukraine, said on Monday she wanted to warn those who call for atrocities. "Don't do it." The Russian Investigative Committee, which looks into serious crimes, said it had ordered a probe into the incident after a viewer complained. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba on Sunday called on governments to ban RT worldwide, accusing the channel of aggressive genocide incitement. Krasovsky had previously said on air that Ukraine should not exist, and we are doing everything to make sure it does not. Ukraine a future EU member. German Chancellor says Scholz calls on German companies to invest in Ukraine, underlines that they will be investing in a future EU member state. Germany sees Ukraine as a future EU member, and will do everything to support the recovery and the reconstruction efforts, Chancellor Olaf Scholz said on Monday. Addressing a group of German and Ukrainian businessmen in Berlin, Scholz underlined that the EU member states will continue their political, economic and military support for Ukraine. Ukraine is part of the European family, he stressed, and called on German companies to invest in Ukraine, to support recovery and the reconstruction efforts there. "One who invests in Ukraine today will be investing in a future EU member state, which will be part of our legal framework, our single market," he said. "When we are rebuilding Ukraine, we are doing this with the goal of EU membership in our mind," Scholz added. Many German companies have been hesitant to invest in Ukraine due to the ongoing war with Russia that began in February. Ukraine was granted EU candidate status in June, setting in motion a membership process that could take years, or even decades. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.